to ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਸੀ ਇੱਕ ਇੰਟਰਸਟਿੰਗ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਹਾਜ਼ਰ ਹੋਏ ਅਸੀਂ ਖਬਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਤਾਂ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਬਟ ਕਦੀ ਕਵਾਰ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕੁਛ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੇ ਇਵੈਂਟਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਣ ਦਾ ਮੌਕਾ ਮਿਲਦਾ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਪਲੈਟਫਾਰਮ ਦਿੰਦੀਆਂ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਨੂੰ ਅਪਲਿਫਟ ਕਰਦੀਆਂ ਅਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਨਵੇਂ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਡੀ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਨੂੰ ਉਭਾਰ ਕੇ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਅੱਗੇ ਪੇਸ਼ ਕਰਦੀਆਂ ਅਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ ਇਵੈਂਟ ਹੋਣ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਨਿਊਯਾਰਕ ਸਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਈ 11 ਨੂੰ SALDEF ਸਿੱਖ ਅਮਰੀਕਨ ਲੀਗਲ ਡਿਫੈਂਸ ਐਂਡ ਐਜੂਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਫੰਡ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਇਹ ਇਵੈਂਟ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ Sikhs in Storytelling ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਪਲੈਟਫਾਰਮਸ 'ਤੇ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਮੀਡੀਅਮਸ ਉੱਤੇ ਸਿੱਖ ਰੈਪਰੈਜ਼ੈਂਟੇਸ਼ਨ ਅੱਜ ਦੀ ਡੇਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਾਈ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਖਬਰਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਿਲਸਿਲਾ ਤਾਂ ਚੱਲਦਾ ਰਹਿੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਬਟ ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਸਿਗਨੀਫਿਕੈਂਟ ਇੱਕ ਖਾਸ ਇਵੈਂਟ ਬਾਰੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਸ਼ੇਅਰ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੀ ਅਗਲੀ ਪੀੜ੍ਹੀ ਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਮੌਕਾ ਦੇ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਆਪ ਦੀ ਕਹਾਣੀਆਂ ਆਪ ਦੀ ਸਟੋਰੀਜ਼ ਦੱਸਣ ਲਈ ਐਂਡ ਇਹ ਜਨਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਾਣ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਮੈਂ ਵੀ ਇਸ ਜਨਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਗਿਣਦੀ ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਬਜ਼ੁਰਗਾਂ ਦੀ ਮਿਹਨਤ ਕਰਕੇ ਮੌਕਾ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਵੱਖਰੇ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਏਰੀਆਜ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਐਕਸੈਲ ਕਰ ਸਕੀਏ ਤਰੱਕੀ ਪਾ ਸਕੀਏ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਤਰੀਕਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਸਾਡੀ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਹੋਏ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਸਾਡਾ ਸੱਭਿਆਚਾਰ ਹੋਏ ਉਹਦੀ ਸਟੋਰੀਜ਼ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸ ਸਕੀਏ SALDEF ਸਿੱਖ ਅਮਰੀਕਨ ਲੀਗਲ ਡਿਫੈਂਸ ਐਂਡ ਐਜੂਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਫੰਡ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਇਹ ਇਵੈਂਟ Sikhs in Storytelling ਜੋ ਕਿ ਪੇਸ਼ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਥੋੜ੍ਹੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਹੋਰ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਸ਼ੇਅਰ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਬਟ ਮੋਸਟ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟਲੀ ਅੱਜ ਸ਼ਾਮ ਦੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਗੈਸਟ ਉਹ ਇੱਕ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੇ ਕਲਾਕਾਰ ਇੱਕ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੇ ਸਟੋਰੀ ਟੈਲਰ ਹਨ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਨਾ ਕਿ ਸਿਰਫ ਇਸ ਇਵੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਿੱਸਾ ਲੈ ਰਹੇ ਹਨ ਬਟ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦਾ ਨਾਂ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦੀ ਪਹਿਚਾਣ ਸੋਸ਼ਲ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਦੇ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਲੈਵਲ 'ਤੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਤੱਕ ਪਹੁੰਚਾ ਰਹੇ ਹਨ ਸ਼ਾਇਰ ਕਹਿ ਲਓ ਕੰਟੈਂਟ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟਰ ਕਹਿ ਲਓ ਔਰ ਸਿੰਪਲੀ ਨਵ ਦ ਪੋਇਟ ਅੱਜ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜੇ ਹੋਏ ਹਨ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਨਵ ਇਟਸ ਸੱਚ ਅ ਪਲੇਜ਼ਰ ਟੂ ਹੈਵ ਯੂ ਔਨ ਦ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ
So good to have you, Nav. So ਸਾਰੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ social media ਤੇ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ Nav the Poet ਦੇ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਜਾਣਦੇ your videos have gone viral on TikTok, Insta, across the board, right? But most importantly, I think ਜੋ ਚੀਜ਼ ਬਾਰ-ਬਾਰ ਦੁਹਰਾਉਣ ਵਾਲੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਕਿ ਜੋ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ content ਹੈ ਉਹ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਨੂੰ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਉਭਾਰ ਕੇ ਆਲਰੇਡੀ ਇੱਕ ਇੰਨੀ ਸੋਹਣੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਉਭਾਰਨ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਬਟ ਅੱਜ ਦੀ ਡੇਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੰਨਾ ਖਲਾਰਾ ਇੰਨੀ ਓਵਰ ਸੈਚੂਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਸੋਸ਼ਲ ਮੀਡੀਆ 'ਤੇ ਕਦੀ ਕਵਾਰ ਲੱਗਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਹਿਡਨ ਜੈਮਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਵੇਖਣ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਦੇ ਬਟ ਯੂ ਟਰੂਲੀ ਆਰ ਅ ਜੈਮ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਤੱਕ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਦੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ on social media and we really appreciate what you're doing. Nav, you're part of this SALDEF event, Sikhs in Storytelling. What a fantastic event. Saadi team nu bahut excitement hai. We're going to cover the whole thing. We're going to share it with our viewers. But also pehle I want to learn a little bit more about your background and apne darshakan de naal main tuhade bare thodi ji hor tuhadi soch bare kuch jankari share karna chahndi ha. So Nav, tell us, content creation ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਰ ਇੱਕ ਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੀਡੀਓ ਬਣਾ ਕੇ ਪੋਸਟ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ but there is definitely an art and a certain kind of effort and strategy or vision that goes behind it. ਤੁਹਾਡਾ vision Nav the Poet ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋਇਆ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ content ਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਫੋਕਸ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ and how did you get into all of this?
Yeah, thank you for having me on first of all. I'm really excited about this event, Sikhs in Storytelling by SALDEF. And as for my journey, I'll try to keep it short because it's a long time coming. But I started writing poetry back in college, around the age of 18 or 19. I'm a spoken word artist, and I use my poetry to explore identity, social justice, and the Sikh experience especially. And so that was actually at a time when I started writing poetry. I wasn't really as connected to Sikhi as I am now, especially, and as maybe people even thought I was. Poetry is really what helped me explore Sikhi in my own journey and understand what it means to me. And I fell in love with poetry. I started writing in 2011. I performed in December of 2011 for the first time in front of 350 people at this Sikh youth event. It was called Lehir, Move the Movement. It took place in Jersey. And I used to be very shy, so going up in front of that many people for the first time was intimidating, but I walked off stage And I just thought to myself, this is what I want to do. I knew it in my head, and I felt by Guru's grace, I just felt very motivated and driven to pursue this. And so I actually was an engineering major in college initially. And because of poetry and this desire to create in a different way, I switched to film and television. And so I started pursuing all these different things, getting my degree, my bachelor's in film and television, while also pursuing poetry as a passion as well as a career. And I graduated and I started performing and traveling and performing around the country. I've been to all different states, all different schools, and I've shared my art, my stories, and my experiences. And then, the pandemic happened, and so I couldn't really perform, at least in person. And it's not the same. Even this, as you can see, it's not the same as having someone in person.
Yeah.
And so I started creating content, sharing my poetry as a way to hopefully reach people. And, TikTok was really the avenue that encouraged me to share more, because I started seeing the way that just different people were coming across my content. I was realizing it wasn't just people I knew, it wasn't just people who knew about me, it was people from all over the world. And I realized they didn't know what this identity, what the case, the star mean and everything. Yeah. And so I started educating about Sikhi just randomly. I thought maybe I'd do 4 or 5 videos, cover the basics, why we keep our hair, what it means to wear the star, what it means to be Sikh. But the more I created content, the more people took an interest and the more they asked questions. And so it went from, oh, why do you keep your hair, to what is the Sikh view of death, or what is Sikh marriage, like just deeper questions. And so I got to really explore Sikhi in a way that I don't even think my generation, this generation really got to explore growing up.
Yeah.
We similarly, in my experience at least, we're just taught these basic principles, seva, kirtan, these ideas that we're all familiar with, but we didn't really get to understand the Guru's message on a deeper foundational level. And so I've had the opportunity to now explore that, because people have taken that interest. And as you've mentioned, my videos have had hundreds of thousands, millions of views, and just people from all over have messaged me telling me, I have a Sikh neighbor, and because of your videos, I can talk to my neighbor and really share, understand what they do, or why they, how they dress and look. Or some people have said, I decided to visit my local Gurdwara that's always been down the street from me, but I never took an interest. But now that I know what it's about, and you've explained what the services and what Gurdwaras are like, I went, and it was this beautiful, amazing, welcoming experience. I've even had some people tell me they decided to convert, which has never been my goal.
Wow.
But yeah, people have taken such an interest that I've at least sparked that interest in them to then explore on their own, and then they make the decision themselves, so.
ਨਹੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਉਹ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਲਿਵ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ. Nav, I mean, this is, especially for a younger person, you seem to have covered a lot of ground already. ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਵੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਸਫ਼ਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਇੱਕ ਨੌਜਵਾਨ ਉਮਰ ਤੋਂ ਹੁਣ ਤੱਕ, ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਨ ਪਰਸਨ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਕਨਵੇ ਕਰਦੇ ਸੀ, ਆਪ ਦੀ ਸਟੋਰੀਜ਼ ਕਨਵੇ ਕਰਦੇ ਸੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਐਕਸਪੀਰੀਅੰਸ ਬਾਰੇ, ਅਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਸੋਸ਼ਲ ਮੀਡੀਆ ਦੀ ਐਡਵਾਂਟੇਜ ਚੰਗੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੁਣ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਇਰਲ ਤੌਰ 'ਤੇ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਕਨਵੇ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ. I mean, when we talk about some of the creative inspiration, right, especially as a poet, as someone who channels their creativity through words as a form of art. ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇੰਸਪਾਇਰ ਕਰਦੀ ਹੈ? ਕੋਈ ਅਗਰ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਅਗਰ specific example ਇੱਥੇ ਲੈਣਾ ਹੋਏ, can you share something where you felt especially inspired by something or a certain attribute in Sikhi that directly channeled into your creative outlet?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I mean, the easy answer is all of it. But for a specific example, I grew up in a post 9/11 world. I was 9 years old when the attack happened. And so I grew up experiencing racism, bigotry, hate I grew up seeing our community experience it, you know. I remember where I was when the Oak Creek, Wisconsin shooting took place, you know, the Gurdwara shooting took place. So these moments and these various instances of hate and discrimination, they're so pivotal to my upbringing, unfortunately, and so many Sikhs. And then I was very fortunate where I did learn about Sikh history, you know, some of it growing up. And so I started to realize as I got into poetry, as I got into talking about these things, that this isn't unfamiliar to our community, right? You know, our gurus have faced oppression. They've challenged oppressors and tyrants, evil kings and rulers and the like, and just societal evils. And that's where my inspiration really comes from, is they spoke out. They are poets themselves.
Yes.
You know, it's something we love to tout. Interestingly enough, our community doesn't always support people now that pursue arts, but I always look at that and get a little confused, because I'm like, but we love what our gurus write. We love their poetry. We love their teachings. But when our community, like my generation, I've seen artists of all kinds try to pursue it, and they don't get that same love. And but it only motivates me more, because I've had people come up to me, Sikhs or South Asians, and just say, you know, I love what you're doing. Like, we don't see enough of that. We don't see people who look like you keeping your case too. Like, that's another element of it. So yeah, it's really just literally what the gurus did in challenging oppression and bigotry and hate, and doing it through love and poetry.
That is so beautifully said. Oh my goodness, Nav, I can see, you know, you certainly have a way with your words, with your thoughts. कितनी important ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਹੀ ਹੈ, ਤੁਹਾਡੀ inspiration ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਗੁਰੂਆਂ ਨੇ ਆਪ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਬਿਤਾਈ, ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਲੱਭਦੇ ਹੋ, ਉਸੇ inspiration ਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਅੱਜ ਦੀ ਡੇਟ ਮਾਡਰਨ ਡੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਜੀਣ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ. And, you know, I have to say, I do think mindsets are changing, times are changing. Community which eho je kamma di eho je pursuits the appreciation and support definitely vad rahi hai. But part of it is folks like you coming and talking about it more, right? And viewers de naal jo sade aj jude hoye ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜੋ share ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਆਪਣੀ experience by, that's so important, which brings me back exactly to what the point of this event is, right? You know, we do a lot of political stuff on this program, and one of the things we love to say, jithe tak political process di gal aandi hai, engagement, community nu activate karan di gal aandi hai, that, you know, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, right? Agar koi tuhade ਲਈ ਫੈਸਲੇ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਦਿਨ ਦੂਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਉਹ you know, benefit ਦੇ ਖਿਲਾਫ ਉਹ ਫੈਸਲਾ ਲੈ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ, whatever benefits, you know, whoever the decision maker is. So representation is so important, but I have to say it's not just in politics, it's across the board, right? Politics which bhi zaruri hai, media de which bhi zaruri hai, in storytelling, in the arts, as well as the sciences, right? We need representation across the board. So tuhade khayal ch jadon ਅਸੀਂ representation ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, growing up when you were going to school for TV and film, or later on when you do these events or these engagements with folks, you know, do you see a lot of people that look like us? You know, ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ, ਜਾਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਸਰੂਪ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ you know, exist ਕਰਦੇ, do you see folks that look like us? You know, how often, and what do you think is the importance of this representation, ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਇਸ ਦਾਇਰੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, storytelling, creative arts, poetry?
Yeah, to answer the first question, very bluntly, no. I'm often the only Sardar at any of these events I go to. I go to a lot of open mics to perform my poetry. I'm the only Sardar, I'm the only South Asian, I'm the only Sikh. Even at South Asian heavy events, where it's like a South Asian focus event, I'll be one of the few, at least Sardars there, you know. And so even in a crowd of what we consider our people, you know, I still stand out, and I'm still very, you know, one of the few. And I agree that it is changing, though. You know, I think our generation and the coming generation, because of representation and being able to see ourselves more and more, however gradual it may be, it's inspiring people that the same way I was inspired, that event I performed at, the year prior, I had gone to it as an attendee, and I saw these Sikh hip hop artists, and I thought, wow, I didn't know our people do this, you know? And so in the same way, hopefully this event, you know, Sikhs in Storytelling can be that similar kind of thing. You know, it's the first of its kind event of this major event in NYC dedicated to the achievements and contributions of Sikhs in media. And so I think that's, to the point of your second question, that's the importance of it, and importance of representation is that it just lets people know that it's not just that it is possible, that it's being done.
Yes.
Right? And I think that's sometimes people say, oh, it's possible. No, but there are people actually doing it. You're doing it now as a news anchor. I'm doing it as a content creator. I mean, there are not a lot of Sikh content creators on TikTok, at least. Instagram might be different, but on TikTok, anytime there's a video or something about Sikhs, I will get tagged in it because I'm like one of the only Sikhs people know. So they just want to let me know, even though I already know.
Wow.
But you know, it's this constant, or like there sometimes are conversations about Sikhs, whether it's, you know, we've had issues with getting, being able to serve in the military or whatever it might be. And someone makes a video about it, and then people tag me and they're like, hey, if you don't know, you should really check out Nav's videos because he educates about the Sikh faith. So if you want to learn more. So, but I'm like one of the only few on there. And so, and I never want to be the only representative because I have only my own experience and my understanding. And I'm happy to learn more. I'm not a scholar, I'm not an academic, I'm a Sikh, I'm a student. So I'm just striving to keep learning, and we do that by having more of our voices, more of our experiences, so that it can be as authentic as possible at the table, right? So when our issues are being addressed, well, we're the ones saying, hey, this is the problem, and this is how we think it should be addressed, not someone else saying, well, Sikhs are doing this thing, and maybe we should do this for them. It's like, well, no, we know what's best for our community.
Yes. Yes. Once again, another, wonderfully articulated point. When we're at the table, we get to advocate for ourselves, right? No matter what the discipline is, ultimately it should be our voice. Nav, I have a ton more questions for you. ਸਾਡੀ ਗੱਲ ਹਲੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਪੂਰੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਈ. ਇੱਥੇ ਇੱਕ ਛੋਟੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਲਈ ਰੁਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ. Nav the Poet ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜੇ ਹੋਏ. Don't go anywhere, Nav. ਦਰਸ਼ਕੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਜੁੜੇ ਰਹੋ. ਬਹੁਤ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਜਿਹਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਅੱਜ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਹਾਜ਼ਰ ਹੋਏ ਹਾਂ. And personally, I love it. ਖਬਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸੁਣ ਕੇ ਕਦੀ ਕਵਾਰ ਜਾਂ ਖਬਰਾਂ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਕੇ ਬੰਦਾ ਥੋੜਾ ਡਾਊਨ ਜਾ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ, ਬਟ ਸਾਡੀ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ 'ਚ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ. ਐਂਡ ਇਹ ਇੱਕ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹਾ ਹਿੱਸਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਬਾਰੇ ਜੋ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਪੋਜ਼ੀਟਿਵਲੀ ਇੰਸਪਾਇਰ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ. ਉਹ ਇੰਸਪੀਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਗਾਂ ਅੱਗੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਇੱਕ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟਿਵ ਆਊਟਲੈਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਫਨਲ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ, ਡਿਸਪਲੇ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ, ਅੱਜ ਉਹਦਾ ਥੋੜਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਐਗਜ਼ਾਮਪਲ ਅਸੀਂ ਵੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ. ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜੇ ਹੋਏ ਹਨ ਵਾਇਰਲ ਕੰਟੈਂਟ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟਰ Nav the Poet. Navpreet, welcome back. It's so good to have you. Navpreet, ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਉਮਰ ਜਿੰਨੀ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਵੀ ਹੋਏ, ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਲਫ਼ਜ਼ਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਸਾਂਝ, ਇੱਕ ਪੁਰਾਣੀ ਸੋਚ ਹੈਗੀ. ਐਂਡ ਇਟਸ ਸੋ ਵੰਡਰਫੁਲ ਟੂ ਹੀਅਰ ਕਿ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇੰਸਪਾਇਰ ਕਰਦੀ ਹੈ, ਭਾਵੇਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਉਹ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟਿਵ ਆਊਟਲੈਟ ਹੋਏ, the content that is going viral on TikTok, other social media platforms, your poetry, the stuff that you get to share with folks on a daily basis. In fact, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਦਿਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ SALDEF ਦੇ ਇਵੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਿੱਸਾ ਲੈ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ, Sikhs in Storytelling. The event itself is on May 11th. I even want to let folks know, ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਜੋ local ਹੈਗੇ, ਅਗਰ ਉਹ attend ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ, you can get tickets. The link for the tickets is saldef.org/Sikhs in Storytelling. They can meet you guys in person. There's a wonderful lineup, some really stellar names on this panel, and you are one of them. Nav, before we get into more details about what you're going to be sharing with everyone at the program, without giving too much away, I want to come back to a little bit about how you live your life, because it's not the traditional path, right? ਮੈਂ ਸਿਰਫ ਪੰਜਾਬੀਆਂ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦੀ ਵੀ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ. ਦੇਸੀ ਇੱਕ ਮਾਈਂਡਸੈਟ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪੜ੍ਹਾ ਕੇ ਡਾਕਟਰ, ਲਾਇਰ, ਇੰਜੀਨੀਅਰ ਇਨ ਏਰੀਆਜ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੋਰੋ, ਹਾਰਡ ਸਾਇੰਸਿਸ, ਰਾਈਟ? ਐਂਡ because of that, sometimes we don't see representation, even amongst our own community, in the creative arts, in other disciplines, right? But you're breaking those barriers. So, jo saade darshak aaj sun rahe han, younger generation de, right? ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਕਿ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ, I mean, you've done it, you're doing it perfectly right now. ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਉਹ ਆਪਣੀ ਸਿੱਖ ਹੈਰੀਟੇਜ ਸੱਭਿਆਚਾਰ ਵਿਰਾਸਤ ਨੂੰ, ਸਿੱਖ ਵਿਰਾਸਤ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਸਾਂਭ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਨ ਇੱਕ ਬਾਹਰਲੇ ਮੁਲਕ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਬਾਹਰਲੇ ਕਲਚਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਰਹਿ ਕੇ, ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਜੰਪਲ ਬਾਹਰਲੇ ਮੁਲਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋਇਆ, ਰਾਈਟ? What words can you share for those folks?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a challenge. I think the benefit that this generation has is the internet, and the internet can be a rough place at times, but it also has access to so many resources. I mean, even that is how I currently learn a lot of the times. There are great channels already on YouTube and other, creatives and creators on social media that talk about Sikhi, and they allow for community building, right? I think that's the biggest thing, is being a Sikh, being a minority in a minority, especially even, whether it's here in the US, in India, wherever we are, we're a minority. It is hard to find our people, and the blessing of social media is you can actually find your people. Yeah. And it's through community that that at least for me, I'm able to retain and strengthen my Sikhi all the time. And that's directly from the gurus, right? I mean, the gurus talk about Sad Sangat, the company of the holy. This is something we have to strive to attain within ourselves, as well as within our physical spaces and digital spaces. So I think that is one of the best approaches, is seeking out the information with the resources that we have, and then using those resources to also find like-minded people who want to further their path as well as yours, because we do it together. And it's my parents, it's friends I have, it's people online that I don't even know personally, but we've interacted through some form of, either in the comment section of a video, or just they have their own channel. And I've been able to connect with so many different people that are in different places on their journey, but we have the same mindset. So we're always pushing to go forward. Like, I met someone who just only recently converted within the last few months or so. And so they're asking me questions, but sometimes their questions challenge me to also, strengthen my understanding of Sikhi. I don't have the answers all the time. So I go to Gurbani and I look and I explore, I ask those who know better. And then I'm also more knowledgeable and have a greater wisdom in Sikhi. So it's nothing but good comes out of that.
Such a a wonderful circle. We always hear the term vicious cycle, but this is the opposite. This is like a positivity cycle, right? And it just is a win-win for everyone involved. So when you are talking about Sikhi, ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਵੀਡੀਓਜ਼ ਬਣਾਉਂਦੇ ਹੋ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਰਿਸਪੌਂਸ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ. I mean, you said it best, right? Social media can both help you find your people, but it can also give you this platform to everyone, right? ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੇ numbers hit ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ, the way, your content has, you're reaching people of all backgrounds. And ਜਦੋਂ ਉਹ ਵਾਪਸ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ connect ਕਰਦੇ, or they have questions, or they want to make some comments, start a conversation about Sikhi, what do you see, or what do you feel are the things that come up that they understand the most, that translate the best, right? And my real intention behind this question is, ਅਸੀਂ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਔਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ community ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, there's more similarities than there are differences, right? We're more alike than we are different from people that don't look like us, have completely different backgrounds than us even. ਤਦ ਹੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿਹਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਸਰਬੱਤ ਦਾ ਭਲਾ, ਮਤਲਬ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਅਸੀਂ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, right? So which attributes do you feel relay the best about Sikhi to non-Sikhs?
That's a great question. I think it would be things like seva, the selfless service, this effort to serve just anyone, right? And that's one of the things that I think speaks to people on such a human level when I tell them about how gurdwaras offer langar and it's open to anybody. Yeah. And I've literally told people, I'm like, if you are homeless or if you're in a difficult situation, if you can find a local gurdwara, please go there. Like I genuinely tell people this because that is the depth of our seva, our willingness to extend our arm out to our fellow human, right? It's not about us being Sikh and them being any other faith or non-faith, non-believer type mentality. It's just humans, and that's this idea of ek onkar and oneness, this connection that we all have. And so it's those ideas. It's challenging oppression and bigotry and speaking out. Because I don't only talk from a Sikh lens. I talk from as a man. I talk about issues that of feminism and masculinity and these kinds of things too. And so it's just these ideals of speaking truth and identifying and opposing injustice, and then serving your fellow human being. I think those are what resonate to people, whether they're part of a faith. I've had a lot of atheists who come into my comments or my direct messages and say, I'm not really for religion, but the way you've explained your faith makes me feel more appreciative of that people like you exist. And to me, that's a compliment. Again, I'm not trying to convince people about God or anything like that. I'm literally sharing my experience with my faith. And it's been a complicated one, but overall, it's really helped me with living these beliefs. And I think that is what resonates and speaks to people of all backgrounds.
Once again, so well put. I think, a lot of times we struggle to tell people who we are, what we believe in, even though those are the things that are the most ingrained. And ਜਦੋਂ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹਾ feedback ਮਿਲਦਾ ਹੈ, it really strengthens. ਇੱਕ ਹੌਸਲਾ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਆਪਣਾ ਬੁਲੰਦ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ yes, people hear these things and they appreciate it, right? So that's so nice. You're talking about a lot of your actions, essentially, promoting Sikhi in a way that it is, of course, non-traditional, but it is something that is still effective, right? ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਪ੍ਰਚਾਰ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਦਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ ਜਾਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਆਈਡੈਂਟੀਟੀ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਾਇਮ ਰੱਖ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ, ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੋ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਤੋਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਥਾਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਦੂਰ ਵੱਡੇ ਹੋ ਰਹੇ ਹਨ, right? How do you balance it, and what can you share about anyone listening that wonders how to balance, representing Sikhi through your physical appearance at the star, ਤੁਹਾਡੇ case, right, versus your actions, right? Doing the seva, doing the langar, talking to people about it, ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹਾ ਪ੍ਰਚਾਰ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਦਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ. How do you find the balance between those two?
Yeah, this is a really good question, and I'm not even sure I have a clear, definitive answer, because the way I look at Sikhi is it's all a journey. And, I grew up being encouraged to keep my case from my parents, but they never forced it upon me. They never told me you have to. As I mentioned before, I kind of wasn't really in the space of faith at a time in college. And at that time, I wasn't even wearing a dastar, I was just wearing a patka. But once I got more into Sikhi through my poetry and everything, that's when I started to really wear the dastar, because I felt I had at least gotten a foundational understanding of what wearing a dastar means, what being a Sikh means, right? And for me, personally, it's if you're not going to at least strive to live these principles, then it gets complicated in having this physical form of right. Sikhi, because what does it mean if you're, what is it? Because one thing I explain to people, because a lot of my content goes to non-Sikhs, is why we wear the dastar, to stand out, to be recognizable. Yes. But what's the value of being recognizable and being of someone that can help if you don't have the inner cleanliness and that mentality of wanting to serve and wanting to help others? It becomes very tricky then. So it's a journey that you have to go by piece. Like, I grew up with this identity. I grew up learning a lot of history. I didn't grow up reading Gurbani as much. So now that's where my journey is. I'm trying to read more and more Gurbani and understand it on the deeper levels. Some people, I know they've cut their hair, but they are so well versed in Gurbani and they understand it. And so now their journey is to figure out keeping case and wearing dastar. So it's a very much a personal experience,
Right.
and it's about figuring out, just continuously feeding yourself Sikhi. I think is really the best way to balance it either way. Is anytime I'm having a hard time or just in a weird mind space. It might not even be a bad mind space. I'm just unsure of things. It's just sometimes I listen to a shabad or I open up a Gurbani app or whatever resource I have to read a bit, and because I need to, I read the translations and I try to understand. I have conversations with people that also, whether it's my parents or friends, where I just pose questions that I'm having, because you can't always do that everywhere, but if you have people you can trust who you can say, hey, I don't understand this thing about Sikhi or what the Gurus are saying here, and you can have that dialogue, that really helps me at least with reinforcing okay, now I can start to piece it together and understand it better. And once you understand it, then I find it easier to internalize it, believe it, and live with it, instead of, oh, I was told to do this because that's the cultural element,
Exactly. And or just reading Gurbani, like jidna asi kisi cheez da ratta maar de, right, like that. Once again, I'm getting that there is a happy balance that can be struck in between, doing it through physical form versus doing it with your actions. But really, Sikhi should be something that is inside the same as it is outside, right? अगर तुहाडी बाहरला स्वरूप सिक्खी दा हैगा ते तुहाडा अंदरला स्वरूप भी अंदरली सोच मन तुहाडा भी उदां दा होना चाहिदा, and it's really more important to be the same inside and out. But now, we could have this conversation for a long time, but I want to get back to the topic at hand today, this event in New York City that SALDEF, Sikh American Legal Defense and Education Fund, ਸਾਡੀ community ਦੀ ਇੱਕ premier civil rights ਸੰਸਥਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ organize ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ, Sikhs in Storytelling. It's such a wonderful event. You can see all the details on the screen. Of course, the SALDEF the website ਤੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ tickets ਵੀ ਲੈ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ. This is happening on May 11th in New York City. There are ways to watch it virtually. Agar tusi local nahi ho, you can watch it virtually, but all the information can be found at saldef.org/Sikhs in Storytelling. Nav the Poet is going to be one of the speakers among a fantastic lineup. Nav, it was so great to talk to you today. I know कि तुहाडा fan base जरूर TikTok and social media ते बहुत वड्डे level दा है, but आज साडे दर्शकां नूं भी मौका मिलिया तुहाडे नाल थोड़ी जी तुहाडी सोच बारे सुनन दा, and it was really very insightful. We wish you the best of luck, not that you need it. See हमेशा चढ़दी कला च रहो, and do come back and join us soon. We'd love to continue this conversation. Once again, Navpreet, Nav the Poet, thank you so much for your time. Sat Sri Akal.
Thank you for having me. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa,
Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So once again, event ਹੋਇਆ ਨਿਊਯਾਰਕ ਸਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਇਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਹੋਰ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਸ਼ੇਅਰ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ. ਅਸੀਂ ਨਵ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਸੀ, ਨਵ ਦ ਪੋਇਟ. ਮੈਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਅਰਜ ਕਰਦੀ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਅਗਰ ਟਿਕਟੌਕ ਜਾਂ ਸੋਸ਼ਲ ਮੀਡੀਆ 'ਤੇ ਅਕਾਊਂਟਸ ਰੱਖਦੇ ਹੋ, ਵੇਖਦੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਹੋ, ਸਕਰੋਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਹੋ, ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਨਵ ਦੇ ਅਕਾਊਂਟ ਨੂੰ ਚੈੱਕ ਆਊਟ ਕਰੋ. ਇਟਸ ਨਵ ਦ ਪੋਇਟ. But more importantly, कि ये जो event हो रही है, SALDEF जो ये event organize कर रहा है, Sikhs in Storytelling. Once again, ये बारे होर जानकारी मैं थोड़े नाल share करना चाहती हूँ. This is happening May 11th, New York City ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ एक in-person gathering हैगी. And COVID ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਮੌਕਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਇਹੋ ਜੀ in-person gatherings ਵੱਡੇ level ਤੇ ਵੇਖਣ ਦਾ, but ਜਦੋਂ ਇਹ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਇਹੋ ਜੀ events ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਹੁਮ-ਹੁਮਾ ਕੇ ਪਹੁੰਚਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ, ਰਾਈਟ? ਲਾਈਕ ਆਈ ਸੈਡ, there's a wonderful panel of speakers ਜੋ ਕਿ ਇਵੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹਿੱਸਾ ਲੈ ਰਹੇ ਹਨ. ਅਗਲੀ ਜਨਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਵੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਉੱਠ ਕੇ ਆਪ ਦੀ ਸਿੱਖ ਐਕਸਪੀਰੀਅੰਸ, ਸਿੱਖ ਆਪਣੀ ਸਟੋਰੀਜ਼ ਬਾਰੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਣਗੀਆਂ. ਐਂਡ ਇਟਸ ਨਾਟ ਜਸਟ देयर ਸਿੱਖ ਸਟੋਰੀਜ਼, ਇਟਸ ਦ ਫੈਕਟ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਕਿਸ ਪੱਧਰ 'ਤੇ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ, ਰਾਈਟ? ਆਈ ਮੀਨ, ਯੂ ਹੈਵ folks like ਲਾਈਕ ਵਿਸ਼ ਸਿੰਘ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਫਿਲਮ ਇੱਕ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਹਿ ਲਓ ਆਸਕਰ ਲੈਵਲ ਤੱਕ ਪਹੁੰਚੀ ਹੈ, ਜੋ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਸਿੱਖ ਅਮਰੀਕਨ ਸੁਪਰ ਹੀਰੋ ਨੂੰ ਪੋਰਟਰੇ ਕਰਦੀ ਹੈ। ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਯਾਦ ਹੋਣਾ ਹੈ ਵਿਸ਼ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜੇ ਸੀ ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੁਝ ਸਮੇਂ ਪਹਿਲੇ। ਜਾਂ ਰਵਜੋਤ ਵਾਂਸ ਅਗੇਨ ਐਨ ਆਰਟਿਸਟ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਆਪਣੇ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਿੱਖ ਐਕਸਪੀਰੀਅੰਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਦੱਸਦੀ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਈਵਨ ਹਰਮੀਤ ਕੌਰ CNN ਕਲਚਰਲ ਰਾਈਟਰ, ਰਾਈਟ, CNN ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਕੌਰ ਜਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਸਿੰਘ ਦਾ ਨਾਂ ਵੇਖਣਾ ਕਿੰਨੀ ਵੱਡੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੈ ਸਾਡੇ ਲਈ। Of course, Nav is there. And the whole panel is diverse in the sense कि किसी एक area या एक माध्यम ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹਿ ਕੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਇਹ ਆਪ ਦੀ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਨੂੰ represent ਕਰੇ, but it's a full spectrum of representation. So more details about this event, once again, ਅਗਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਟਿਕਟਸ ਲੈ ਕੇ in person attend ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਜਾਂ virtually ਇਸ event ਨੂੰ ਵੇਖਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ, 11 ਤਰੀਕ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। It's in New York City, 3 ਤੋਂ 8 ਸ਼ਾਮ ਨੂੰ at the Five Angels Theatre downtown. Excuse me, on 10th Avenue. But ਤੁਸੀਂ SALDEF ਦੀ ਵੈਬਸਾਈਟ ਤੇ ਵੀ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਟਿਕਟਸ ਲੈ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ, saldef.org/Sikhs in Storytelling.